Hi folks, welcome. We're just getting started and I see people's names popping up here, so I'll give it just a minute to give people a chance to get into the webinar and get settled. See some names I know here. It's really exciting to have everyone. Just gonna give folks another minute or two to get joined. In the meantime, as you join, you'll notice at the bottom of your screen you have a polling button. If you click that, there's a short poll you can fill out if you want something to do while you wait. All right, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started here. A few people are still joining, but that's fine. So for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Justice. I'm the technology manager at North House. And before we get started, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of how Zoom works in case this is anyone's first webinar or first time attending one of these with North House. So you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, you have a few different buttons. There's a chat button. That's the best way to just chat with either the panelists directly, which would be myself, Tom, and John. And you can also send a message to everybody in the webinar as well. The way that you do that is if you click chat, and then you'll see a drop down where you can choose either all panelists or you can choose all panelists and attendees. So if you do that second one, everybody in the group will see it. If you feel like it, go ahead and just chat in there and let us know where you're coming from. We'd love to hear from you that way. If you have any questions at any time during the webinar, you put those in the Q&A box, and we ask that you put those in Q&A rather than the chat box, just because it makes it easier for us to keep track of those questions and then make sure that we get to all of them. So again, you can type your questions into the Q&A box at any point during the webinar, and after John is finished, then we'll have the Q&A section and we will address those questions that we get in there. And then finally, again, there's a polling button at the bottom as well. That's just a brief poll. It asks a couple questions about how you heard about the webinar, and it also asks if you want us to follow up with you and send you a recording afterwards. Because this webinar is being recorded, so that if you miss any of it, or if you have any trouble with the audio, or if you want to share it with friends, you can always catch the recording later. So again, chat for general comments, Q&A box for any questions that you have for John, and then that poll button if you could fill that out for us. So again, we're so glad to have you all here. We're really excited to get going. And with that, I'll hand things off to our very own Tom Morse to give you a quick introduction.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Morse, and I'm the development director here at North House. But tonight I get to enjoy sea shanties and the wonderful music of John Van Orman. North House is working really hard to continue our mission of building community and enriching lives, even as we work in the virtual world. Ideally, tonight we'd all be gathered down on the commons, getting ready for a pizza feed and watching the rehearsal for the solstice pageant. But it's a really different year and a really different time, but we're so glad you can be with us. If you accidentally check no on the poll question asking if you want e-news, you can message me or Justice, and we'll make sure you get on the list. It's the best way to find out about online classes, free webinars, events, lunch and learns, and lots of other great things. Much like PBS and NPR, North House hopes you are enjoying this programming for free, but your support makes a huge difference and goes a really long way in making more content like this possible. So if you're having a good time tonight, I'll just put a link in chat. If you follow that link, you can make a donation to help support North House and its mission. This week we have a special challenge match going on up to $7,500. And so if you make a donation tonight during the webinar, your gift will be doubled. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our presenter for tonight, John. And John is a very talented musician. I'm so excited about this. He's a multi-instrumentalist and singer who's performed regionally in the Midwest and in the Ozarks. Van Orman's original songs have won him Minnesota Music Awards, and he's been recorded by Boiled and Lead, Bill Hinckley and Judy Larson, Sherry Minnick, and many others. We're really excited to have John coming with us from Dodgeville, Wisconsin. So with that, let's turn it over to John.
Hello, good evening. It's good to be here. And I'm going to dive into these songs and just give brief introductions. And there will be time for discussion afterwards, and I'll answer questions that people have if they have any. And I'm going to start with a song, a sailor's love song that dates from the time of Lord Nelson's Navy in England. Adieu, sweet loving Nancy, 10,000 times adieu. I'm a-goin' cross the ocean to seek for something new. Come change your ring with me, dear girl, come change your ring with me. That it might be a token of true love while I am on the sea. And when I'm far upon the sea, you know not where I am. Kind letters I will write to you from every foreign land. The secrets of your mind, dear girl, are the best of my goodwill. So let your body be where it might, my heart shall be with you still. There's a heavy storm arise, and see how it gathers round, while we poor souls on the ocean wide are praying for the crown. Our officers command us, and them we must obey, expecting every moment all to be cast away. There are tinkers, tailors, and shoemakers lie snoring asleep, while we poor souls upon the sea are plowing on the deep. There's nothing to defend us, love, nor keep us from the cold. On the ocean wide where we must bide like jolly sailors bold. And when the wars are all over, there'll be peace on every shore. We will drink to our wives and children and the girls that we adore. We'll quaff a liquor merrily and we'll spend our money free. And when our money is all gone, we will boldly go to sea. Now, this next song is a whaler song from the whaling era, and it was written as a poem by a man named George Scroggie around 1850 in Scotland, and it was later set to a traditional tune. It's called Farewell to Tarwathie. And sailors' songs and whaling songs in particular are often very uh, rousing sorts of songs, and often boisterous and whatnot. And this is very tender, very sweet. Farewell to Tarwathie, adieu Mormon hills, and the dear land of Crimond. I bid yous farewell. We are bound out for Greenland and ready to sail, in hopes to find riches in hunting the whale. Adieu to my comrades, for a while we must part, and likewise the dear lass who fair won my heart. And the cold coast of Greenland my love shall not chill, and the longer my absence, more loving she'll feel. Our ship is well rigged and she's ready to sail. Our crew, they are anxious to follow the whale, where the icebergs do float and the stormy winds blow, where the land and the ocean are covered with snow. Oh, the cold coast of Greenland is barren and bare. No seed time nor harvest is ever known there. And the birds here sing sweetly on mountain or dale, but there isn't a birdie to sing to the whale. There is no habitation for a man to live there, and the king of that country is the fierce Greenland bear, and there'll be no temptation to tarry long there. With our ship bumper full, we will homeward repair. Farewell to Tarwathie. Now, no program of songs of the sea and the seas and waterways would be complete without a shanty or two. And I'm going to sing a shanty here called the Alabama. And shanties are work songs, and so they're very rhythmic, and they're intended to coordinate the efforts of groups of workers. Because the length of the task at hand is going to vary, they're often made up of random verses, what folklorists call floating verses that are used in numerous songs. In this case, we have a shanty that has a narrative that tells of an historic event. And it, as folk songs rarely do, it tells of the event pretty accurately. And it's about the battle between two ships in the American Civil War, war between the states, the Confederate raider Alabama, and the Union vessel Kearsarge. And this was the last battle between two wooden ships. It's an interesting song on many levels. And it has a chorus. And if we were doing this live in person with a live audience, I would encourage you all to sing. And I'm going to encourage you to sing even though I can't hear you. Join me. The chorus, it repeats itself. You'll pick it up very quickly. And please sing loudly. I won't hear you, but I might feel you. Oh, the Alabama's keel was laid. Roll, Alabama, roll. It was laid in the yard of Jonathan Laird. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. It was laid in the yard of Jonathan Laird. Roll, Alabama, roll. It was laid in the town of Birkenhead. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. Down the Mersey River she sailed then. Roll, Alabama, roll. She was Liverpool fitted with guns and men. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. From the Western Isle she sailed forth. Roll, Alabama, roll, to destroy the commerce of the North. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll, to defeat the North Sem's did employ. Roll, Alabama, roll, any method to kill and destroy. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. Into Cherbourg port she sailed one day. Roll, Alabama, roll, to collect her share of prize money. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. Then it's every sailor saw his doom. Roll, Alabama, roll. When the Kearsarge she hove into view. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. Then a ball from the forward pivot that day. Roll, Alabama, roll. Shot the Alabama's stern away. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. At the 3-mile limit in 64. Roll, Alabama, roll. The Alabama was seen no more. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. The Alabama. There are not very many songs about sealing, hunting seals, and there aren't many well-known folk songs from New Zealand, and this is a song that fits into both of those categories. And this tells of a historical event also. In the early 1800s, companies that traded in seal furs would ship hunters down into the Antarctic, to isolated places in Antarctica, and leave them there, drop them off to hunt for seals and process the furs, and then the ships would return and collect the men and their harvest and take them home. In this case, the ship that dropped them off sank afterwards. and no one returned to retrieve the men for 3 years. And as you might imagine, it was not a pleasant time they had. It's called Davey Lobster. And this is a hurdy-gurdy, by the way. It's a sort of fiddle, dates back hundreds of years. I'll answer questions about it later if you like. My name is Davey Lobster. I did sail. My name is Davey Lobster. I did sail. Though my men and I were lost, though our very lives it cost, we did sail, we did sail, we did sail. In 1810 we set sail, we set sail. In 1810 we set sail. We were left, we gallant men, never more to sail again. We did sail, we did sail, we did sail. We were set down in open bay, were set down, were set down. We were set down in open bay, were set down. We were left, we gallant men, never more to sail again. Never more, never more, never more. Our Captain John Goddard, he set sail, he set sail. Oh yes, for old Port Stanley, he set sail. I'll return men without fail, but ye foundered in the gale, and went down, and went down, and went down. Come all ye lads who venture far from home, come all ye lads who venture far from home, where the icebergs tower high, that's a pitiful place to die. Never sail, never sail, never sail. Davey Lobster. Next, I have a pirate song here. This is an old pirate song about the Barbary pirates. It's found throughout Britain and the United States as well. It's called a Barbary, and it's found in Francis James Child's classic collection of Scottish and English ballads. Now there were two jolly ships from out of England came, blow high, blow low, and so sailed we. One she was the Queen of Russia, and the other Prince of Wales, cruising down along the coast of Barbary. Step aloft, did our jolly boatswain cry, blow high, blow low, and so sail we. Look ahead and look astern, look aweather, look alee, and look down along the coast of Barbary. Well, there is no ship astern, there is no ship alee, blow high, blow low, and so sail we. There's a lofty ship to windward, she's a sailing fast and free. She's a cruising down along the coast of Barbary. So to hail her, did our jolly captain cry, blow high, blow low, and so sail we. Oh, she is a man of war, or a privateer, says he, come a cruising down along the coast of Barbary. I am not no man of war, nor a privateer, says he, blow high, blow low, and so sail we. But I am a lofty pirate, I'm a seeking for me fee. I'm a seeking down along the coast of Barbary. So a broadside along the bow we lay, blow high, blow low, and so sail we. Till at length the Queen of Russia blew the pirate's mast away, cruising down along the coast of Barbary. And for quarter did the jolly pirate cry, blow high, blow low, and so sail we. Oh, the quarter I will give you, I will sink you in the tide. I will sink you down along the coast of Barbary. So we tied him up by twos, we tied him up by threes, blow high, blow low, and so sail we. Yes, we tied him up by dozens, and we chucked him in the sea, and we drowned him down along the coast of Barbary. Barbary. Next, we have a more modern song. This was written in about 1961 by the Scottish folk singer, songwriter named Ewan MacColl. And MacColl had interviewed and recorded a fisherman named Sam Larner. And he took bits and pieces of Larner's narrative of his lifetime, from those recordings, those interviews, and created a song from them. It's a lovely thing. It's called The Shoals of Heron. Heron. Oh, it was a fine and a pleasant day. Out of Yarmouth Harbor I was faring as a cabin boy on a sailing lugger for to go and hunt the shoals of Heron. Oh, the work was hard and the hours were long, and the treatment sure it took some bearing. There was little kindness and the kicks were many as we hunted for the shoals of Heron. Oh, we fished the Swarth and the Broken Bank. I was cook and I'd a quarter share, and I used to sleep standing on me feet, and I dream about the shoals of Heron. Oh, we left the home grounds in the month of June, and to Canny Shields we soon was bearing, with 100 cran of the silver darlings that we'd taken from the shoals of Heron. Now you're up on deck, you're a fisherman, you can swear and show a manly bearing. Take your turn on watch with the other fellas while you're following the shoals of Heron. In the stormy seas and the living gales, just to earn your daily bread you're daring, from the Dover Straits to the Faroe Islands, while you're following the shoals of Heron. Well, I earned me keep and I paid me way, and I earned the gear that I was wearing, sailed 1,000,000 miles, caught 10 million fishes. We were sailing after shoals of Heron. The Shoals of Heron by Ewan MacColl. This next song is another ballad, and it comes from the singing of Sam Lorner, the fisherman that the Shoals of Heron is about. Lorner had spent his entire life as a fisherman, and like many of his fellow trawlermen, he was a wealth of traditional songs of the sea and other folk ballads and folk lyrical songs. And this is called Henry Martin, and it is another ballad that we find among the child ballads. And I love this song because it really demonstrates just how complex a folk melody can be and how challenging to perform. Um, that folk songs often get dismissed, especially working class folk songs, as overly simple and unsophisticated. And this demonstrates that it's not so. As we were gone sailing, 5 cold frosty nights, 5 cold frosty nights and 4 days. It was then we espied a lofty tall ship. She come bearing down on us brave boys. Where are you a-going, you lofty tall ship? How dare you to venture so nigh? For I have turned robber all on the salt sea, to maintain my 2 brothers and I. Now come heave up your courses and let go of your main sheet, and let her come under my lee, and I will take from you your rich merchant's goods, and I'll point your bow guns to the sea. I shall not heave up my courses, nor let go of my main sheet, nor let her come under your lee, nor you shan't take from me my rich merchant's goods, nor you'll point my bow guns to the sea. Now broadside to broadside these vessels did lay. They were fighting 4 hours or more, till at length Henry Martin gave her a broadside, and she sank and she never rose more. Sad news I've to tell you, sad news I've to bring. Sad news I'm a-goin' to tell, of a lofty tall ship lost on the salt sea, and the most of her mariners drowned. Henry Martin. Let's see. This is a kind of classic sort of whaling song. It gives a pretty vivid and accurate account of what whalers' lives were like on land and on sea. It's called Go to Sea No More. When first I landed in Liverpool, I went upon the spree. My money at last I spent it fast, got drunk as drunk could be. But before my money was all gone on liquor and the horse, I'd made up my mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking walking down the street, I met with Angeline. She said, come home with me, my lad, we'll have us a crackin' time. But when I awoke, it was no joke, for I found I was all alone. And me silver watch and me money too, and me whole ruddy gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met with Rapper Brown. I asked him for to take me in. He looked at me with a frown. He said, last time you was paid off, to me a chop no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance and I'll send you to sea once more. He shipped me aboard of a whaling ship bound for the Arctic Sea, where the cold winds blow in the frost and the snow, Jamaica rum would freeze. And worse to bear, I'd no hard with the gear, for I'd lost all me dunnage on shore. It was then that I wished that I was dead, so I'd go to sea no more. Come, all ye bold seafaring lads, who listen to me song. When you go a big boating, I'd have yous not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any whores, but get married, lads, and have all nights in, and go to sea no more. Go to sea no more. Lots of good advice in there. What do we have next here? This is another shanty. And as we've seen, shanties are generally sung a cappella, but folk traditions change as time goes by, and a few shanties have come into repertoires of singers who sing them with accompaniment. And I used to sing this a cappella. Then I came up with the guitar part. And it's called Heave Away Me Johnny. There's some that's bound for New York town, and some that's bound for France. Heave away, me Johnny, heave away. And some that's bound for the Bangle Bay, to teach them whales a dance. And away, me Johnny boy, we're all bound to go. Our pilot is a-waiting for the turning of the tide. Heave away, me Johnny, heave away. And then my girls were bound away on a good westerly wine. And away, me Johnny boy, we're all bound to go. Farewell to you, dear Kingston gals, farewell to St. Andrew's Dock. Heave away, me Johnny, heave away. If ever we should come back again, we'll make your cradles rock. And away, me Johnny boy, we're all bound to go. Come all you hard-weather sailormen who round the Cape of Storms heave away, me Johnny, heave away. Be sure your boots and oilskins or you wish you'd never been born. And away, me Johnny boy, we're all bound to go. There's some that's bound for New York town and some that's bound for France. Heave away, hey, me Johnny, heave away. And some that's bound for the Bangle Bay to teach them whales a dance. And away, me Johnny boy, we're all bound to go. Heave away, me Johnny. Now, these sorts of songs have been sung all over the world and all over the continents for centuries. A lot of people inland enjoy sea songs and always have. And this song is a real good example of how, songs from the sea came inland years ago. It comes from the singing of a man named Noble Brown, and he came from just about 30 miles from where I live in rural Wisconsin. He left home in the very early 1900s, a boy of 14 years old. He went up and worked the lumber camps in northern Wisconsin and Minnesota, and proceeded to work his way westward as a laborer, and eventually wound up on the West Coast, where he shipped aboard a sailing ship, became a sailor on the high seas, and eventually retired and moved back to Wisconsin. And this song was collected from him in the 1940s, just right nearby where I live. And it's called Reuben Randle. And there are a lot of versions of this, and the most common ones were popular among revival singers during the folk song revival of the 50s and 60s, and they're usually very rousing affairs. This is, the melody is similar, but a bit different than those. And the narrative is different as well. And Brown's delivery in the field recordings made by Helene Stratman Thomas, his delivery is very gentle, almost like a lullaby. Oh, poor old Reuben Randle, Randle boy, Randle. Oh, poor old Reuben Randle, Randle, my boy, Randle. He shipped aboard a whaler, Randle boy, Randle, but Randle was no sailor. Randle boy, Randle, he could not do his duty. Randle boy, Randle, for neither love nor beauty. Randle boy, Randle, He could not coil a line right. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, did not know end from rope's bite. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, he could not box the compass. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, the skipper raised a rumpus. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo. The old man was a bully. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, at sea was wild and woolly. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo. He abused poor Reuben plenty. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, he scourged him 25. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo. Poor Reuben cried and pleaded, Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, but he was left unheeded. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo. Some vessels are hard cases. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, keep sailors in strict places. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, a sailor never whimpers. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo, though shanghaied by shore crimpers. Ranzo, boy, Ranzo. Reuben Randle. I think I'll stop there to allow some time for questions or comments that people might have. So I'll turn it back over to Tom and Justice here to do that.
Yeah, we've had some really great questions come in and a lot of applause, John. People really been enjoying it. And it's fun to see we've got guests from all over the world. Pravesh made it on.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm so glad to have him here. My friend from India.
And so the first question up is, on shipboard, was there usually only a single musician or did multiple sailors entertain and sing?
Well, it varied according to time and places and types of vessels. For instance, for most of the history of British and I think American naval vessels, sailors were not allowed to sing. They would have a ship's fiddler who was there to exercise the men. You know, they would dance as sort of calisthenics. As far as the shanties would go, there would usually be on ship a singer who was known as a good singer, a loud singer, who had a repertoire of shanties, and such people, such men would lead the shanties. There were also what were called forecastle songs, or forecastle songs, and those were songs that sailors would sing during their leisure hours for entertainment. They would sing for one another, and you know, just as people sing today. So there's not a hard and fast rule about that, but that's the general lay of the land.
Great. And the next one is a two-parter. How can we learn more about sea shanties and what can we do to keep this music alive for the next generation?
Well, the best way to keep traditions alive is to sing. Learn songs and sing them. And don't be afraid to sing in various places. I've been known to start singing in a bar and taverns, and sometimes it's more welcome than at others, but yeah, it takes a certain amount of bravado to pull this stuff off. But yeah, learn the songs, sing them. As far as sources, Stan Hugill, Hugill, was a British sailor who collected shanties his entire life. He lived to be quite old, and he recorded, it was recorded singing the songs, but he also wrote a book called Sailor Shanties of, shoot, I'm drawing a blank. But Sea Shanties, it's called. There's a subtitle, I forget. But it's Stan Hugel. And he's a great source. His book is a great source. And another great source is A.L. initials A.L. Lloyd, L-L-O-Y-D. And he and the aforementioned Ewan McCall made lots of great recordings of sea shanties throughout the 50s and 60s. They're still in print on CDs and whatnot. And Lloyd also wrote a lot. He was a sort of an untrained scholar, but a very impressive folklorist and scholar of English folk song as well. And so A.L. Lloyd and Stan Hugel are the two people I'd refer you to.
Thanks, John. And the folks who've been following along in chat have seen this, but we're doing really well as hosting this as a little NPR-like fund drive. We've had 12 donations come in so far, and we're close to our goal of 15 for the evening. I'll be sharing the donation link in the chat box again, and if we have 3 more people step up, that'll help us to reach our goal for the evening. John, the next question is, how did you get into this kind of music?
Well, I've always liked singing, and I fell in love with folk songs when I was in grade school. And my earliest encounters with folk songs and songs of the sea shanties and other songs of the sea, was in a public school. We used to have music class, I think, twice a week, during which sessions we would sing, often from the Fireside Book of American Folk Songs, which is a great collection of folk songs from America. And it's a fine collection in that it's very multicultural, as were songs of the sea, by the way. You think about it, you have sailors sailing, traveling all over the world, coming from all over the world, encountering people and musical styles and songs from all over the world for century upon century. So this is a very multicultural mix that is behind these songs and these traditions. But the Fireside Book of Folk Songs when I was a child, and then in my teens, I left home and became a musician and started singing in bars and concerts and whatnot. And my love of traditional songs and traditional sea songs continued through that time up to the current time. And I've just picked them up along the way. I hope that's helpful.
That's very helpful. We've got a question about the hurdy-gurdy. You've inspired one listener tonight to want to learn more about it and to see if you have a particular maker or tips before purchasing one.
Well, now I made this one, and I've made hurdy-gurdies since the 1970s. And I started because at the time, I really wanted one, and the only way you could get one in those days was to build it. I couldn't find builders in the United States, and the builders I could find anywhere the cost of the instruments was just prohibitive. It was beyond my means to purchase one. And so I grabbed the bull by the horns and taught myself to make them. The first one wasn't that good of an instrument, but it taught me what I needed to know to build the second one and subsequent instruments. And I've traveled around studying hurdy-gurdies, particularly in Ukraine. Ukrainian hurdy-gurdy is called lyra. It's like lyre, and they think of it, the Ukrainian peasantry, the folk of Ukraine in the 17 and 1800s thought of the lyra as the lyre, the harp that King David has in the Bible. So they imagine King David having one of these in the Old Testament. And the Germans call it a drehlyre. The French call it a viol à roue, which means a violin with a wheel, which is what it is. You have a wheel inside that is touching all the strings. When I turn the crank on the end, it turns the wheel. The edge of the wooden wheel is coated with rosin, violin rosin, so it bows the strings. Two of the strings drone, just a constant drone, which is part of why it sounds like bagpipes. And then the strings that go through the key box, when I press a key, I'm pressing those wooden flags up against the string, and they work like guitar frets, but instead of pressing the string against the fret to change the pitch of the string, you're pressing the fret up against the string. So you have a drone against a melody. As far as where you can buy these, there are makers now all over the world. If you want to write to me, or if North House would forward any questions to me, I can refer people to a couple of makers. I don't want to, recommend anybody in public and advertise. But I will warn you that they are rather expensive, because it's very, very laborious to make one of these.
All right, John, and another question comes from Lars in Norway. He's wanting to know if you have a particular song's background that you really like the story of and would be willing to share.
A song background?
Yeah, I think he's interested a little bit more in the story behind a few of the songs.
Yeah, well, my goodness. I think a big favorite is Henry Martin, which I sang tonight for many reasons, namely a few that it came from a fisherman. It came from Sam Larner, who was a herring fisherman. So it's a real folk song that had a life surviving and being changed in the oral tradition, which is part of what defines folk music. Also that McCall had recorded Larner, had interviewed him, and those recordings, by the way, are available on CD and whatnot of Larner. They're kind of rough field recordings, but they're worth listening to. So just that whole history of knowing the person, knowing who the individual, who the song was collected from, and also that it's among the child ballads. Again, the ballads that were collected not as folklore, but collected as literature by Francis James Child, in the published first in the late 1890s. That's such a monumental collection of classic ballads, and so it's always appealing to have, a ballad that is among the child ballads, because you can go back to Child's notes and research, and then the folklorists that followed Child as well. So this whole science of folklore and folk music collection and study is very fascinating. So any song I can find in the child ballads is going to be a favorite.
Wonderful. And we had another question. Do you know any sea shanties in languages other than English?
There are many. Now, I don't know them,
Sure.
but there are, sailors. We find sailors all over the world. So there are sea shanties, or songs that were made to coordinate sailors' efforts while hoisting sails or working winches or hauling up anchor and whatnot. In traditions in countries everywhere, there are ancient Chinese sea songs from the Yellow River. Africa has a tradition of sea songs, and a lot of the rhythms of songs even the songs of the sorts I was singing tonight, sea shanties that are from America and England and whatnot, were influenced by West Indian music, and they're West Indian sailors. They're African sailors, so you can find songs of the sea in countless languages. I just don't know them all.
Thank you, John. And we're going to have one more question before we wrap up.
Okay.
If you want to put your messages for John and thank him for tonight's performance, the chat box is still going. Wanted to give people a chance to chime in. A lot of people have been messaging Justice and myself during this, John, just to say how much they've enjoyed it and how much they've learned about sea shanties from you. So this has been a lot of fun.
Well, it's been great for me, and thank you.
It's a great joy. Justice also shared your email, so expect a few notes.
All right.
We're also one donation away from meeting the goal tonight, so I know somebody out there is going to help us reach that goal here in the next couple of minutes. And with that, John, someone was requesting, well, I guess we'll throw out a request too. One person requested the song Bound for South Australia, and I don't know if you have an encore performance in you. And another person asked about the concertina and what kind of fingering it uses.
Well, now this is an Anglo concertina. It's a 40-button Anglo. Anglos, you get a different note if you're pulling or pushing on the bellows. So you have one button has two notes. With an English concertina, which is not the same as an Anglo concertina, strangely enough, you get the same note whether you're pushing or pulling. And both types of instruments have different numbers of keys, buttons. It depends on what particular sort of instrument. And even in England on Anglos, La Chenelle and Crab and Wheatstone are all old makers of Anglo instruments. They each have their own particular system of fingering. So That's the best I can answer that. And South Australia, actually, I know I haven't done it for years, but I'll give it a shot here.
We appreciate it, John.
If you could save the chat for us.
Terry asks if you could save the chat for us as well, if you can, but
I'm pretty sure we can do that for you.
thank you. In South Australia I was born, heave away, haul away. In South Australia, round Cape Horn, we're bound for South Australia. Haul away, you rolling kings, heave away, haul away, haul away. Oh, hear me sing, we're bound for South Australia. There's not but one thing leaves my mind, grieves my mind. Heave away, haul away to leave Miss Nancy Blair behind. We're bound for South Australia. Haul away, you rolling kings, heave away, haul away, haul away. Oh, hear me sing, we're bound for South Australia. As I went out one morning fair, heave away, haul away. 'Twas there I saw Miss Nancy Blair. We're bound for South Australia. Haul away, you rolling kings, heave away, haul away, haul away. Oh, hear me sing, we're bound for South Australia. Very impromptu, but I hope that was helpful.
That was wonderful, John. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Oh,
And
it's been great. I'm so happy to have done this.
this has been a blast, and my father-in-law and my dad, and I know Justice's family joined us, and we know there's lots of families out there enjoying your music tonight. For everyone who's watching, we hope that you'll join us tomorrow for our Lunch and Learn series, as well as our featured presentation. There's all the information you could possibly need about Wooden Boat Show on the North House website. Have a great evening and take care, everyone.